The question fell into the warm air of the Christmas Café like a cracked bell, soft yet sharp enough to stop time itself. Outside, snow drifted past glowing windows. Inside, cinnamon and coffee wrapped the room in comfort, but in one quiet corner, a single sentence exposed the invisible wall between wealth and poverty, dignity and fear, hope and humiliation. The girl stood still after asking it, hands trembling, eyes lowered, as if she already knew the answer might hurt more than rejection ever could. If you believe stories of kindness can still change hearts in a world that feels divided by status and money, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel, because every small act of support keeps stories like this alive. The cafe had been dressed for Christmas the way wealthy places always are, with gold-edged ornaments, pine branches tied in velvet ribbons, and lights that never flickered because they were never allowed to. Soft carols played, not loud enough to disturb important thoughts, not quiet enough to let loneliness speak. At a table near the window sat a man in a tailored coat, posture straight, shoulders carrying the weight of empires built on decisions and numbers. He was alone, not because no one wanted to sit with him, but because he had chosen solitude that evening. His name was known in boardrooms, on magazine covers, whispered with envy and admiration. To the world, he was a CEO who had everything. To himself, he was simply tired. The girl who approached him did not belong to that world. Her coat was thin, faded at the elbows, buttons mismatched like they had been borrowed from different lives. Her shoes carried the memory of many winters, soles worn flat by long walks she never complained about. Her hair was pulled back not for style, but for practicality, strands escaping no matter how carefully she tried. She smelled faintly of cold air and something metallic, maybe the bus stop, maybe hunger. When she asked her question, it wasn't meant to offend. It was meant to protect herself from embarrassment, from being chased away, from being reminded again that some places were not meant for people like her. She had come into the cafe because outside the snow was falling harder, because the warmth visible through the glass felt like mercy, because Christmas made even the poorest hearts believe there might be room somewhere. She had counted her coins 3 times before opening the door, knowing they were barely enough for the cheapest drink. But what frightened her more than the price was the look people gave when they saw her clothes, the silent judgment that said she was a mistake in a beautiful place. Asking the question was her shield. If the answer was yes, she would leave before being pushed out. The man looked at her then, really looked, not the way executives scan faces in meetings, but the way someone looks when something unexpected interrupts a familiar pattern. He noticed the redness in her hands, the way she stood ready to apologize for existing, the courage it took to speak at all. Something in his chest tightened, a memory stirring that he had buried under decades of success. Long ago, before tailored coats and corner offices, he too had known what it felt like to calculate whether warmth was worth the cost. The cafe staff had already noticed. A server paused, watching closely, prepared to intervene if things became uncomfortable, for whom, no one ever questioned. The rich discomfort mattered more. The girl waited, heart pounding, already rehearsing her exit in her mind, already feeling small. She did not know that this moment would follow her forever. The CEO gestured gently toward the empty chair across from him, not grandly, not to make a scene, but as if it were the most natural thing in the world. The invitation did not erase her fear immediately. She hesitated, because kindness from powerful people often came with hidden prices. Still, the warmth of the cafe and the quiet sincerity in his eyes convinced her to move. She sat down slowly, perching on the edge as if afraid to leave a mark. As minutes passed, the tension softened. The server came, surprised but professional, taking an order that cost no more than the girl could afford. The CEO insisted without insistence, a subtle shift of responsibility that preserved her dignity. Outside, the snow continued to fall, blanketing the city in equal whiteness, hiding cracks and stains alike. The girl's life had not been easy, though she never described it in dramatic terms. She carried loss like a silent companion, parents gone too early, opportunities cut short by responsibility, dreams folded neatly and stored away because survival demanded it. She worked wherever she could, learned quickly, endured quietly. Christmas, for her, was not about gifts or feasts, but about remembering people she missed and wondering if things would ever change. The CEO listened more than he spoke, and that listening did something to him. Each detail stripped away layers of privilege he had forgotten he wore. He remembered nights when his mother stretched meals to last, when Christmas meant hope rather than abundance. Somewhere along the climb upward, he had promised himself he would never feel powerless again, and in doing so, he had forgotten how powerful kindness could be. Other patrons noticed the unlikely pair. Some looked curious, others disapproving, a few inspired. In that corner of the cafe, two worlds that were never meant to touch shared warmth, and the room felt different because of it. Not louder, not grander, just more human. As the evening went on, something changed inside the girl. She straightened a little, her shoulders easing, her eyes lifting. Being treated as equal, even briefly, did that. It reminded her that poverty was not a measure of worth. The CEO saw this transformation and felt a quiet ache, realizing how rarely his world offered such moments, how often people like her were erased without a second thought. When it was time to leave, the snow had piled high. The cafe glowed behind them like a memory already forming. The CEO stood, offering more than a polite goodbye, offering possibility. Not charity disguised as generosity, but opportunity grounded in respect. He spoke of work, of learning, of potential. He did not promise miracles, only a door where there had been a wall. The girl stepped back into the cold with something she had not carried in a long time, hope that did not feel foolish. The night was still hard, the world still unequal, but one moment had shifted the balance inside her. She walked home lighter, replaying the question she had asked and the answer she had received, not just about a seat, but about belonging. Weeks passed. Christmas faded into routine, but lives rarely return to exactly what they were after something real happens. The girl took the chance offered, working harder than she ever had, not to prove gratitude but to honor herself. She learned, stumbled, rose again. The CEO watched from a distance, resisting the urge to control the outcome, understanding that true help empowers rather than binds. For him, the encounter rewired something long dormant. He began to see faces where he once saw figures, stories where he once saw statistics. Decisions changed. Policies softened. A corporation slowly learned the language of compassion, not because it was profitable, but because it was necessary. Years later, the cafe still stood, redecorated each Christmas. Still warm against the snow. The girl, no longer just a girl, sometimes passed by it, remembering the night her life tilted toward light. She knew the world had not magically become fair. She knew kindness did not erase struggle. But she also knew that one moment of being seen could carry a person through years of darkness.